Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of the Nitro Corner. I'm Paul the Nitro Skivers. Glad that you could join us for part 2. Now it's time for Fantasy Booker. This week we're going to rebook Starrcade 83, A Flair for the Gold. That's right, Starrcade 83 started it all, and in honor of the Thanksgiving weekend coming up next weekend, I thought I might tweak Starrcade 83 a little bit. What I would do as a booker, I would keep the three big matches. Piper versus Valentine in the dog collar match because of the sheer violence of it. I would keep Steamboat and Youngblood versus the Briscoes for the NWA World Tag Team titles. Why? Because they're the two top teams for it. And of course, Flair versus Race for the NWA World Heavyweight title inside a steel cage with Gene Kiniski as the referee. Why? Because that is the main event of Starrcade 83, but all the other matches underneath, I would scrap that immediately. And here's how I would book the other cards. The opening bout, I would see Mr. Wrestling number 2 go one-on-one with Ted DiBiase. At that time, in late 83, in the Georgia territory, Ted DiBiase had just arrived from Mid-South Wrestling to the Georgia area and quickly became National Heavyweight Champion at the expense of Mr. Wrestling 2. Well, Mr. Wrestling 2 would be looking for revenge, but DiBiase would pull a fast one and make it a non-title match. And if Mr. Wrestling 2 would win that match, he would get a shot at the Georgia Heavyweight title. But at the end of the day, I would book Ted DiBiase to use the loaded glove to beat Mr. Wrestling 2 in a close one in the opening bout. And then I would see a street fight for the Georgia Tag Team titles as the Road Warriors defend against the Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer and Brett Wayne Sawyer, the Sawyer brothers. At that particular point in time, Buzz Sawyer had turned to the good side after dumping Precious Paul Ellering as his manager in saving Brett Wayne Sawyer from Jake Roberts. So what does Paul Ellering do? Sends his Road Warriors after him. And I would see a brand new Georgia Tag Team Champions that night in a bloody, close battle in a street fight. I see Brett Wayne Sawyer getting slammed on top of Animal. The referee turns around, 1, 2, 3. And that would be it. The Sawyer brothers would win the Georgia National Tag Team titles. Then I would book them to lose the belts 2 weeks later to the Road Warriors. And then the upset in Ohio in December where the Sawyers beat the Road Warriors for the National Tag Team titles. That's how I would book that bout. The next bout would be Kevin Sullivan and Ron Bass against the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Barry Windham. Two feuds in Florida in one. Of course, the feud between Sullivan and Windham and Bass, at that time, when Barry Windham rode in a saddle and rode like a horse. Embarrassing moment on Florida Championship Wrestling, but then Barry would come back as the Yellow Dog for about 30 days. Barry Windham would return seeking revenge against Ron Bass. And of course we know about the history between the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Kevin Sullivan. They would have their ongoing feud as well as Rhodes versus Bass, because Bass turned his back on Dusty Rhodes in a world title match against Harley Race. And in that one, I would see Dusty Rhodes pin Kevin Sullivan to win that tag team battle. It would be very exciting. And then, a special attraction for the Pacific Northwest, as Curt Hennig would battle the Dynamite Kid for the Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship. Dynamite Kid at that time came in from Calgary, Alberta, Canada for a Stu Hart Stampede promotion, and he would start a war with Curt Hennig. Two young, up-and-coming stars. They would collide in a classic 25-minute battle. I would see Curt Hennig pull an upset using a small package to beat the Dynamite Kid. And then a lumberjack match, hair versus hair, as gorgeous Gino Hernandez battles Tully Blanchard. The breakup of the dynamic duo. They would have only 2 cage matches in their feud before Gino left shop and went to Dallas for a world-class championship wrestling. But I would keep Gino and Tully feuding for a while, former partners. They couldn't sell in regular matches, no DQ matches. So, of course, Jim Crockett Jr. president of Jim Crockett Promotions would buy the contract out of Texas and then book a lumberjack match where the loser would have his head shaved. Of course, Gino with a bald head 2 years later, doesn't look good at that time. So I would say Gino pulls it out over Tully Blanchard, and Tully would have his head shaved in the lumberjack match. And that is how, and of course I would keep the original results for the original 3 matches. Piper over Valentine, Steamboat and Youngblood winning the World Tag Team titles from the Briscoes, and Ric Flair winning the NWA World Heavyweight title inside a cage against Harley Race. First time ever that the NWA World Heavyweight title changed hands inside of a steel cage. And that is the Fantasy Booker for this time on the Nitro Corner. Glad that you could follow along in our little fantasy world here at Fantasy Booker. Now it's time for our time machine for the dates of November 8th to November 27th. Let's go in the time machine, shall we? We begin in the Georgia territory on November 25th, 1966 at the Municipal Auditorium in Atlanta. No time limit, no disqualification, Southern Tag title match. Enrique and Ramon Torres defeated the Red Raiders. We zoom ahead 11 years later, November 11th, 1977, same place, Atlanta Municipal Auditorium, for a Texas death match as Dusty Rhodes defeated Stan Hansen. And then after we look at Georgia, we make a trip up to the Northeast of WWE on 11/7/1967. Bruno Sammartino defeated Bulldog Bob Brower by submission to win the to retain his Worldwide Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Championship. Moving on to Wilmington, Delaware. That's right, the WWE was in Wilmington, Delaware, scantily throughout the 70s and 80s. I believe it's at the CYO Center. I think in conjunction with Wilmington University. I'm not too sure about that. But on November 18, 1982, Tiger Mask defeated Curt Hennig in the opening contest at the CYO Center in Wilmington, Delaware. And then we go to Los Angeles on November 27, 1984, as Sergeant Slaughter and the Junkyard Dog teamed up to battle and beat Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. Excuse there. Looking back at a time machine makes you thirsty. And then let's talk some Survivor Series history. The day before the Survivor Series in Providence, Rhode Island, at the Civic Center, Ted DiBiase defeated Hulk Hogan by countout in a WWE title match thanks to the interference of Andre the Giant. A day later, Hulk Hogan would be eliminated in the Survivor Series matchup's main event as Team Hulk lost to Team Andre at the Survivor Series 87, the first one, as a matter of fact. Well, now that we're going to leave now the Northeast and head to Memphis. I'm talking some Memphis people. On November 10, 1975 at the Municipal Auditorium, the Mid-South Coliseum, Andre the Giant defeated the Sheik by disqualification. And then, 4 years later, on November 20th, 1979, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, went to a no contest with Wayne Ferris and the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, then known as Handsome Jimmy Valiant. Moving along now, we head down to Houston. On November 18th, 1983, Nikolai Volkov won a 2-ring, $20,000, 20-man battle royal. Congratulations to Nikolai on that victory back then. Let's go now to the NWA Jim Crockett Promotions next. On the day before Starrcade 87, on November 25th, 1987 in Uniondale, New York, a 10-man tag team war as Ronnie Garvin, Dusty Rhodes, Barry Windham, and the Rock and Roll Express defeated Big Bubba, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and the Midnight Express by submission. Then we'll go back in time again, the day before, 2 days actually before Starrcade 83, since we rebooked Starrcade 83 in a Fantasy Booker, to Goldsboro, North Carolina, on November 22nd of 83, as Charlie Brown, a.k.a. Jimmy Valiant in the Mask, teams up with Angelo Mosca to defeat Kevin Sullivan and the Maniac, Mark Lewin, the Purple Haze himself. And finally, we go down to the Sunshine State of Florida. On November 25th, 1978 in St. Petersburg, Florida, in an NWA World Title match, Harley Race defeated Joe LeDuc to keep the NWA World Heavyweight title. Then on November 14th, 1980 in Lakeland, Florida, in a lights-out bounty match, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and the Sheik battled to a double disqualification. And finally, our time machine ends in Tampa, Florida on November 20th, 1984, as Angelo Mosca Jr. pulled a big upset, beating Kevin Sullivan. And that is your time machine for the period of November 8th to November 27th. Hope you enjoy the time machine for this time. Now back to the present. 1 second, please. As I said, the time machine makes you thirsty sometimes. As I mentioned, we're nearing the end of the show, and I have some big announcements to make. Number one, on December the 1st, we will have a very special edition of the Nitro Corner. It's our Pro Wrestling Illustrated Achievement Awards nomination special. If you have not gotten the edition of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, it will be out on that same day. Pick up your copy now. I will read the nominees and will give you information on how to vote for the most prestigious awards in all professional wrestling, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Achievement Awards. Then, from December 23rd to December 31st, it'll be a special Nitro Corner Christmas, New Year's Day Marathon. Red hot action, personally picked by me from the rich history of professional wrestling, thanks to our good friends at YouTube. It'll be available on my YouTube channel. I will like the videos, so make sure you tune in and watch them each day. And I will have them on my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Paul Skivers. And then Christmas Day, December 25th, a very special edition of the Nitro Corner. It will be our year-end show. We will give you my top 10 moments of the year, and we will, after 2 full years, we will announce the Nitro Corner Wrestler of the Year for 2015. And then the day after, on the 26th, and I'm going to write this down right now, 12/26, I will have a 1CW Control Center. It will be our year-end review for that as well. We'll take a look back at some of the top moments in my mind for 1CW, and I will announce the Nitro Corner 1CW Wrestler of the Year. That's right, 1CW fans. Get ready, because I'll make that announcement on December 26th. Well, that's it for this edition of the Nitro Corner. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving holiday. Until then, my name is Paul the Nitro Skivers. We'll see you in December. It's going to be red hot on the Nitro Corner. I'll see you at the matches. So long, everybody.